If you've never been to a trade show or your agency is in a place where maybe you feel like you can't afford to do it, I'm going to tell you the exact opposite. You can't afford not to do it. The exposure that you're going to get, the culture building that you're going to go through, the opportunities that are going to be given to you because you go are going to far outweigh the cost. So don't let cost keep you afraid of doing something like this.
Hey, everybody, we are back for another episode of the $1 Million Agency Podcast. And this time we have a bit of a special edition. I have some different members from my team, the Concrete Marketers. We just left the world of concrete, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to mix it up, change the pace with you guys, and bring you value in a different form. So this was a tremendous event for us. We had great results, and I just wanted to bring some of my team to share their experience with you. So if you are looking to scale your agency, you're looking to grow, perhaps you've considered a trade show. If you haven't, I would highly recommend it. As many of you guys know, I'm a big believer in niching down, and I think niching down helped us a lot. And from my team, I have Taylor, who goes by Tay. So I speak Tay. We got Stevie, who is Taylor's sister, our newest addition to the team. We have Samantha, who's the head of operations, and Joran, who is Samantha's husband, who has been with the company now for 8 years. He mostly works on the lead snap side of things, but for the first, I think, 5 or 6 years, he was a part of building the agency with me. So you guys, welcome to the show. Let's talk about the world of concrete. Let's just, first of all, what were your thoughts of this conference? What did you guys think?
So I was really nervous to talk to people in person. And I think when I was going into it, I was even asking Sam, like, what about payment links or, my pitch deck? And I was kind of looking at it as if I'm going to go in there and try to sell people on the spot. And I was very surprised when I got there, they were actually just coming to me. It was more of like throwing dynamite into this tiny little pool where we're the only marketing company there with all of our main, prime candidates. And I honestly didn't have enough time to get to all of them. So they're still reaching out to me on Facebook.
Yeah. In this agency space, a lot of times there's two things that we really focus on in our agency. One is doing outreach, and the second is positioning so that we have inbound leads coming. So going to this event, which is, it's shocking how big this is. They say it's I think the second biggest trade show in the world. It was massive. So it was kind of like we had inbound leads when we got a booth, right? And it wasn't that expensive. I think it was somewhere around $6,000 for the cost of the booth, everything said and done. So, but with that $6,000 for 3 days, it was kind of like we had inbound leads. We had immediate trust with people because we had a booth. They assume correctly that we're great at what we do, right? Or we wouldn't have invested in a booth. Did you feel that, Tay?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just, having the really clear message everywhere you went with our swag. You had a little posse and entourage following you around with a camera and your logos, and the message was very clear. So yeah, I think it was amazing.
Yeah, super cool. Samantha. So Samantha, the head of our operations, and she's been to a couple different events for Lead Snap. Samantha, what did you think of this event, and how did it compare to some of the others?
Well, none of the others were trade shows, right? They were conferences. So very different in nature. These trade shows, I think, are a lot more dynamic and interesting. There's lots of booths and products and companies that are representing themselves in these spaces. So being a part of that was a little bit interesting, a little bit strange. But these people are here at these trade shows to learn and invest and buy new products. And they're just open to being talked to, and they're very receptive about it.
Yeah, especially when they're approaching our booth, right? So we posted up our booth there, and the people that were interested in our services came to us. So there's already so much that's true there.
That was the main thing I wanted to touch on, was it put us in a position of educating instead of selling. It was just it was an easy segue into trust and just not going in there with an agenda and truly showing them the picture.
Taylor, you're constantly doing outreach to other people, and sometimes we're connecting with people that are qualified. Sometimes we're connecting with people that aren't qualified. There's always kind of this gap of trust, right? How did you feel like that was different for this event? Where, like, my perception, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it, the people that attended this event were by default more qualified than somebody that has a Facebook account. If they're investing in a trip, they're paying for travel, they're paying for a hotel, they're serious business owners if they're coming to this event. So it seemed like we were running into people that were running big businesses that are doing millions of dollars in revenue, which is that's our avatar, right? Do you agree?
Absolutely. And it was really funny because Stevie and I were playing a game of guess who the owner is. And it was so obvious, right? They had a different energy about them. And you're right. They had all of their guys there. They paid for their hotels. They paid for their flights. It was very important for them to be there to level up in their business, whether that's like making connections or stumbling across us. So absolutely.
Say, you and I, we've hung out in person a couple times, but I'm not sure that, like, we had our whole team, and not that we had our entire team, but we had a big part of our team at this event. Aside from the fact that this is going to be positive for us from a revenue standpoint, did you feel like it built the culture in there to kind of like, it brought us together?
Absolutely. I think I almost cried like 2 times just because I was so touched. And I don't know, I think it's a really good way to enter into somebody's company. I was lucky enough to just jump right into going with you guys to Tennessee and meeting, Joran and Samantha and got to spend a little bit of time with you. But it's really helpful to we hung out in an Airbnb, all of us giggling, till late into the night and then kicking some butt the next day. And, there had to be a lot of communication too. Stevie and Sam, they just all of a sudden became top salesmen, top saleswomen. I mean, I was like, who is that talking? It was Sam. So it was amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah, super cool to kind of see it come together like this. So Stevie had just joined the team. So Stevie is your sister, and she's coming on as an account manager. So our account managers work to make sure that our clients stay happy. They're kind of the bridge between the client and our internal team that's responsible for deliverability, from building the ads to setting up the websites, doing SEO, all the different parts and pieces. And Stevie, we hadn't really met in person. I'm not sure if I think it was that we hadn't spoken at all before this event.
We had.
Yeah. What are your thoughts now? You didn't really understand the niche so much, but you'd been in marketing and SEO for a little while. What was your experience like coming into this, like, completely cold?
Well, absolutely a little bit frightening at first, but once I got there and actually saw who our audience was, who we were talking to, and the nice, part about it, like Taylor said, you kind of went in there kind of thinking you're doing like more of a salesy, but it's not. It's like it's very comfortable. You're able to gauge who you're talking to and see what they're doing in their own business, because there are so many different things that go into this niche selection. So it was very comfortable after being able to talk to people, and it was easygoing. I feel like everybody was having such a good time there, and they were able to network with like-minded people.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did it feel to you, our positioning within this niche and at the show with people coming over to us and talking to you? Were you pretty confident that, hey, if we can just get these people into a conversation, that this is going to go well for us?
Absolutely. I felt like we were very direct, and I felt like people had a very clear and concise picture of what we offer. I feel like they were coming to us specifically. And even though we had our booth way tucked in the corner, people were traveling. I mean, I got somebody to come out from the outside construction all the way just to come see our booth and talk to you guys. So I think it was very successful in that manner.
Awesome. And Stevie, not knowing a ton about the niche and then spending the week at this event, do you feel like you are really well prepared now to communicate with our clients as you move into this account manager role?
Absolutely. The growth alone, just being there for the 3 days, has been exponential. So
I think I'm going to be able to really connect with our clients and see where we can help better their agency or their sorry.
Yeah. Better to help their business grow, right? So what do you guys feel like we did really well at this event? So the other agency owners that are out there that are thinking about this, I'm going to go over to you, Jordan. So what do you think helped us? Because I think the entire vibe of the team was, hey, this was super successful. Why was that the case? I think some of the reasons were the concrete marketers. We have a booth. We're at a show with a ton of concrete people there, right? So we were really well positioned. But Jordan, you've been at other shows with this? We've been at events for the software. This is our first one that we've done together with the agency. But what do you think helped us stand out at this conference?
Yeah, I think multiple things came together at this conference specifically. Like in the past, like you mentioned, we've done a lot of other shows, and it kind of felt like maybe we were in a like a really saturated market. We were competing with a lot of other companies doing the same thing, all trying to sell people the same thing. And this one felt really different because I think we really stood out. There was maybe a couple of marketing companies there, and the people that were attending the show, they were all there to solve problems for their business. And one of the biggest problems that a lot of these business owners are always going to have is inbound leads. Having said that, being able to be the company to provide a solution for these people made us, I think, just stand out very easily. And also, they were our exact avatar, like you kind of touched on earlier. We have a built out avatar, and it seemed like most of the people that would come up to us and talk with us matched exactly what our predetermined avatar would be. So that just made it incredibly easy. And like I said, we were able to solve one of the biggest problems that they all had.
Exactly. 100% agree. It was really cool to watch it, the way it unfolded, and all these years of preparation with sales calls and studying marketing and SEO. We were just so dialed in and set up for it. I'd like to go back to you, Tay, for a minute. Taylor, what was the process when somebody came and approached the booth from start to finish? What kind of process did we take them through?
I introduced myself. I had a clear message, and that message was, no, we are not just a marketing company. Yes, we do web design and we do SEO, but we're a solutions agency, essentially, right? And then I would just flip it back over to them and have genuine conversations and I wasn't even trying to find the pain. I was just having a real conversation, and then they would tell me the pain, right? And then generally it's the same 5 things every time. And so I was already ready. And they were just blown away, with the information that I had at hand and the data that I had from your agency, such as our low churn rate, right? So most companies, what is it, Patrick? It's like 7 to 10% annual churn.
I think 7 to 10% is the annual average. 3% is the target, and we were at 0.4% over the last 12 months.
As soon as somebody hears that, and then I just on top and say, and our average client stays with us for at least 4 years, we're still counting, come back around to me and just make really light of it. I mean, it really was great positioning. Stevie saw me. There was a gentleman in front of me, and he was like, I'm only at 3 million, can you guys work with me? And I was like, we're going to have to run some scans. And that was true because so many people were coming to us. It was like, I've never seen anything like it. I've already got plans for my agency. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah. As a part of our data and sales positioning, what were we showing them, and how did that impact them? We were taking advantage of the LeadSnap software while they were there. And I'm just wondering, from your perception, do you feel like that was something that was impactful for them?
Yes, people love a visual. The way that we explain it is it's not in the tech weeds, as you'll say. People like to see a clear, concise color chart, right? And then we go through your antenna analogy. You can't get much more simple than that. Everyone can follow, and we're not just pulling up random data. it's linked to their Google Maps listing, and we can show them, is this where you verified it? I bet this is. We put it up on that big screen as well. And so now you've got other people standing around watching this with curiosity. And I mean, it went from difficult. I had to take Zoom off my Calendly link because nobody would get on a Zoom with me, to people fighting to see our screen and having 3 laptops walking around so people can get a turn.
It was really incredible to see it, and beautiful to kind of just like stand back and see. We had another person there as well. We had Jackson, he wasn't able to make this call, but to kind of see everybody in their own separate conversation simultaneously, we're showing them. Some of these people come over and they say, look, our SEO is really good, but we just don't get a lot of leads. And I'm like, that's probably not true. Like, it's one of those is not true, right? If your SEO is really dialed in, it's going to create a lot of leads. And, some of them, seeing their faces change when like, hey, here are the results. Here are your competitors. And some of these people, they've been paying marketing agencies for years, and they were angry. They're angry to have it displayed and realize all the opportunity that was lost. But it wasn't anything that we hadn't done before. We were just able to, because of the environment, we're able to just pump it like one person after the other. What else do you guys feel like we did that worked well? Anybody else have anything to add?
I felt like we had an incredible impact on some of these business owners, and I was going to see if Tay was willing to share. One gentleman came up to the booth, and we were chatting him up, and she was having a conversation with him, and one of his pain points was hiring, and he was just like beside himself. He didn't know what to do. So she pulled me over, and I gave him some tips, and Jackson sauntered over and jumped into this conversation. So now we've got 3 very intelligent people trying to solve this man's problem for him. And the result was like he cried. He was overwhelmed with emotion, and he was happy that we were invested in giving him a solution. And that speaks to what Taylor had said about us being a solutions agency. Like, we are here for more than just your leads. Like, let us help you where we know how. And I felt like an incredible amount of the conversations that were had with these contractors at this convention ended up that same way.
Yeah, it was really obvious. I had people hug me, people that, hey, they were a stranger. And then 20 minutes, half an hour later, they're like, you guys are awesome. You guys freaking rock. And we're the same company that we've been, and people can maybe feel it on a Zoom call, but there's something else. Like, people are much more trusting when they meet you in person, and they can kind of feel your energy. So for us, we know our numbers well. Sam's our head of operation. I'm going to ask Sam on here. Sam, what's our average client pay us per month?
$2,200.
How long does our average client stay with us?
4 years.
4 years. So at $2,200, so 12 times 2,200, we are somewhere around $25,000 a year, right? So 4 years, it's $100,000 is what the lifetime value of our average client. So the booth and everything, I think it was $5,800 for the actual space. And then I think we spent $2,000 for the stuff around our booth. We spent a couple $1,000s on an Airbnb. We had, I think 50 sweatshirts or 100 sweatshirts or something, and t-shirts. Most of those we gave away. We were giving them away when we had, when people had an appointment, or like, hey, this is our ideal customer, to try to build those relationships. So that swag, I think, was close to $3,000. So we also paid for food. As the owner, I took you guys out. So I was probably into this for $15,000. And Sam is in charge of our operations and making sure that we're on budget. Sam, do you have any doubt with that $15,000 expenditure that we're going to get? Like, is this going to be a positive ROI for us? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. The connections that we made, whether with other companies, contractors, distributors, manufacturers, all have the potential to make a massive impact. So like Tay was saying, we've got booked appointments on the calendar. A lot of them are upcoming, but we expect a ton of those people to convert. And based on the opportunities and conversations that we had, I fully expect to see a significant jump in our monthly recurring revenue.
If you guys kind of had to guess, and I know we're just guessing here, Sam, but what's your guess? Like, I think we have over 100 leads. I'm sure some of these people are going to turn out to not be qualified. Some of them aren't going to show up. We're going to lose, maybe half of them. We're not even going to really get in a conversation. What do you think our bump in MRR is going to be worth?
Considering the list we were able to build while we were there of roughly 100 people, plus the booked appointments, conservatively, $35,000.
$35,000. So if that would translate to about 17 clients. So if we were to hold steady, and hey, it may be different because the people that we were working with in the past didn't come from a trade show, but that would be, if we had 17 clients and each client's worth about $100,000 to us, that would be $1.7 million for a $15,000 investment. We don't know how this is going to play out. There's some opportunities. We threw numbers around with some people. Some people have bigger companies and they're willing to invest more into their marketing. So, for me, this was awesome. It was amazing to see you guys work together, to have the team come together. My favorite part was honestly not during the event, but it was after we went out to dinner and we went to a Cirque show, and just kind of like looking down the aisle at the Cirque show and seeing the amazement of people and realizing that this is our team, right? This is our company. It was pretty freaking awesome. So enough of like patting ourselves on the back here. Let's talk about what could we have done better. I think we're all in on doing the next year's event and also looking for other ones. What will we do? So for people out there that are considering, in their agencies, they're considering attending a trade show, I would recommend getting a booth. I think the positioning from the booth was, it was way better. Like I've attended shows and tried to walk around and talk to people, but having a booth there, I think made a huge difference. So what do you guys think we should do differently next time? Sam, do you have any recommendations?
Absolutely. Having all your print materials and educational materials done ahead of time.
Excellent. Let's go over to Joran. Joran, do you have any ideas on what we could do better next time?
Yeah, I think making sure to reserve the booth early enough and planning ahead on that. So I think by the time we booked this booth, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was like 2 spots left. So we kind of had to pick just one of those 2.
The last one's in.
Yeah, so we kind of just got whatever was left over. And I think we were kind of looking around at some of the other booths, and there's some that have a lot more space. And I think our thoughts were maybe next year we should get a bigger booth and maybe something that has some seating that is a little bit more friendly and inviting to people. They're walking around a lot all day, and if a lot of people just want to sit down, and if you give people a space to be able to sit, then it's a lot easier to have those conversations. So I think that is definitely one of the biggest ones I would take into next year.
Yeah, the position of our booth was a lot of the booths that were in the middle, like people were walking by on both sides or 4 sides of the booth, right? Our booth was on the very edge. So there wasn't really much traffic that was coming on this side because there's nothing over there. Was a wall, right? There was just like maybe 10 yards between our booth and the wall. So next time, having a big booth and putting it so that someone could walk by our booth from 4 different directions, I think we'll quadruple our traffic potentially. There's only one way that people can really walk by. We also talked about getting like a popcorn machine so that we could like the smell, like getting them in there, being more vocal. We got a karaoke machine. One of the things that we did to get a lot of leads is we did giveaways. So we had people scan a QR code, and we bought like an iPad. We bought a big cooler, like one of those fancy coolers. These guys are out there in the summer working out in the heat. We got AirPods. We got Home Depot gift cards. So we were getting people to join this. We were giving away swag. We had a lot of positive energy at the booth. Definitely a learning experience. I want to go over to Stevie. Stevie, I know that some of the ideas, maybe I've taken some of the ideas that you've had and I've already mentioned them, but do you have anything else from our learning that we could share? So if somebody else is considering going to get a booth, that they may, they can take advantage of it without making the mistakes that we did.
I mean, honestly, I think we did a really good job at luring, and drawing attention to us. We had that big old stereo. People were dancing and having fun, making light of everything. If we could, I saw a lot of people do like sandwiches and stuff. That's very inviting. You want to come sit down and have a conversation? Maybe some LED little strip lights just to kind of make us stand out and pop a little bit more. But I think that you guys kind of covered over a lot of the things that we could possibly improve on as location, and then just, the smell of popcorn you can't resist. So
Yeah.
I want to take credit for one of Jackson's ideas. So like if you're in the construction niches and you're going to some of these conferences, having like kind of that bright fluorescent colored shirting that's required on job sites with the logos on it would be a great thing to have, right? That's something that they're going to be able to put on and be compliant at these job sites.
Yeah, absolutely. Great idea to put that in there. I think some of the other booths that we saw, like one of the companies there gave away, I think like 8,000 backpacks. I mean, I don't know how many people were at this event, but let's say 50,000 people, because there were 3 massive halls, just gigantic. And there were people in all of them at all times. They just, I mean, everywhere you look around, you kind of look. We stood in the middle at one point and we looked this way and you're like, the end of that hall is very far away. The same with that direction, the same with this direction. There's huge equipments in there, dump trucks and just like all sorts of concrete machines. And those concrete machines and massive pieces of equipment look small in this massive spot. And I think it was kind of cool the last day. Someone had mentioned that they saw our sweatshirts in their hotel, right? They're like, hey, we saw people wearing their sweatshirts. I think next year we invest more in swag. I think we could, use some of the colored shirts and stuff like this. And yeah, just kind of like maybe more of the giveaways. We took in all their information. I think one of the keys for this is in follow-up, right? Having tons of leads doesn't do anything if you don't follow up. The fortune is in the follow-up, as they say, right? So I've tasked my team. We've kind of like broken it up. Each person has their different leads that they're going to be following up with these people. I think that's a huge part of it as well. Any other thoughts that we could share with other agency owners that could really provide value to them? What would you tell somebody who is on the fence about trying to invest in something like this?
Man, I think trade shows are just an incredible opportunity to be able to get in front of the right audience in a space where they're willing to be pitched. Like that's the biggest thing. Like
that's why they're there, right?
Yeah, your pipelines could be working great, but you get on a Zoom and it just feels like you're talking to a wall, right? Even though they signed up and said, yes, this is the time I want to attend. The people at these conferences like want that engagement and you get to make that connection and you can make it last. It's just such a unique place to be able to sell your services and market your business.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things that we haven't talked about that we did at this event is we ran targeted Facebook ads using the geography of this location and saying like, hey, in a 1 mile radius, target everyone here. So we were using that to not only build brand awareness, but to also try to get people to come into our booth. So I think that was effective. I think having the giveaways is going to push people into the booth. We also ran into some of our clients while we were there. Some clients that we've had for years and years. We've had one of our clients we ran into. I think they've been our client for 7 years. We never met them in person. So we were just like, we got the opportunity. I think all in all, it was just an amazing event to be able to have all of this, bring the team together. We filled up our pipeline, lots of positioning. Some of the people there, because we run Facebook ads for our agency, there was a couple people who were like, I think I've seen your Facebook ads online. And now they're seeing us at a booth. And I mean, when those two things line up, they're like, wow, this company is really professional, right? So it was the positioning. I think it really strengthened us as a company.
And like Jordan said, there were exactly 2 other marketing companies there, but those marketing companies didn't have a niche. People walked up to the booth and they were amazed. Wow, like you guys, all you do is concrete? Is that serious? when you focus on the niche exclusively, like that sets you apart, first of all, but people are impressed because you're the authority. You specialize in something that they care about, that they've invested their life into. And it makes them a lot more confident to have that conversation or book the demo call, or even just be receptive to opening up and telling you about their pain or their problems and allowing you to solve that problem for them.
You know, a lot of these people that were at the booth with us and they were telling us, hey, I've been paying this marketing company, blah, blah, blah. None of them said, I was paying this other marketing company who also only specializes in concrete. So when they're like had a bad experience and then they run into a specialist, it's almost like we're immediately elevated. Where it's like, oh, you guys specialize in this. Yeah, it's really hard to be great at all these different niches. And they can feel that. And I think that strengthened our positioning as well. And as soon as they see our booth, right, it says the concrete marketers on the booth, and it says we help concrete contractors, right? So it was exactly where we should be. And I would say that if you are niche down, pretty much whatever niche you're in, there's a trade show for that niche. And there's probably multiple trade shows for that niche. Additionally to this is like we left the booth. So we kind of, the second half of the event, we split. We kept some people in the booth to handle the inbound. And then myself and Jackson and Taylor, we went and walked around and we talked. And Smith, I think you were there for part of this too. We connected with some of the suppliers and manufacturers. And so this was another really good tactic that I think we did well. The conversation went like this is, hey, we understand that, you guys are suppliers, and if your contractors sell more work, then they buy more materials. And what we specialize in is helping concrete contractors get more work. So perhaps there's some opportunity for collaboration. And everyone was really receptive to this. They're like, that is true. It's exactly what we need. Do your contractors often struggle to get more business? What would that mean if they were able to be more successful, right? So we have maybe 8 to 10 potential appointments and connections that we've lined up from that outreach. So it doesn't have to be just people coming to your booth. If you decided for whatever reason, I highly recommend if you decide to go to a trade show that you actually get a booth, because the positioning was just fantastic. And I understand that it is an investment, but I think if you do it right, it's going to be a massive return. But for whatever reason, if you decide, hey, you can't get it together, whatever the case is, I think just being there and approaching the manufacturers and suppliers with that kind of information is going to be really strong. But, I would say we spent a few hours doing that, and we were able to connect to most of the relevant manufacturers and suppliers that were there. The rest of the time, the other 2.5 days, or the entire 3 days, because part of our team was still in the booth, was people coming to us, like the inbound leads. And if we didn't have a booth, we would have missed out on all of that. So I would say find a way to make it happen. There's cheap ways to get a booth. I can include some of the stuff. I can include potential, some of the pictures and the booth stuff that we got in the show notes so that you guys can have access to that. I'd love to hear final comments that any of you guys want to share, whether that be a message to somebody that's considering a trade show, something we haven't talked about, surprises, other takeaways that you have, anything of value that we can deliver to these other agency owners out there. So let's start with you, Mr. Joran.
Yeah, I would just say Patric, I mean, if I came up to you and said, I'll give you $15,000 if you'll give me $2 million worth of booked calls and value, it would be a no-brainer, right? Like anybody would do that. And that's exactly what this is. We invested $15,000 to go to this show and attend, but we left with a couple $1 million of booked calls and value. Obviously, like you said, the fortune's in the follow-up, and we need to close on that and make that happen. But yeah, I mean, that's the biggest ROI that I've ever heard of. We would absolutely do it again. And honestly, I wish we would have done it sooner.
Learning lesson. Unfortunately, I never watched a podcast where somebody was telling me to go and do it like you guys are listening to now. But yeah, 100% agree. We don't know whether it's going to be $1 million, $2 million. We have no idea. But I think everyone on this call feels really, really confident that we're going to have a positive ROI. If we said like, hey, you know what, a 10-to-1 return on this would be great. So that would be $150,000. So 1.5 clients. If we land 1.5 clients based on the momentum that we had at that show, I would be really disappointed with a 10-to-1 ROI on this, just based on the way it feels. And, after being in this for more than a decade, I feel really confident that this is going to be a positive ROI for us, regardless of what the final number actually is. Yeah, great point, Jordan. I completely agree. Let's go over to Samantha now. Samantha, what are your final thoughts for our people, for our listeners out there?
If you've never been to a trade show, or your agency is in a place where maybe you feel like you can't afford to do it, I'm going to tell you the exact opposite. You can't afford not to do it, right? The exposure that you're going to get, the culture building that you're going to go through, the opportunities that are going to be given to you because you go are going to far outweigh the cost. So don't let cost keep you afraid of doing something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And the education that we got, we grew as a team. We understand our avatar even better now, right? Yeah. And certainly last but not least, Stevie, what do you think? What are your thoughts of this?
So I've never been to one of these, and this was a great first experience. I absolutely loved being able to work with a lot of the people out there. That is going to be my main job. So I was able to actually see them in person and be able to actually engage with them and see how this is going to benefit them for their companies. You met a lot of like-minded people, and it was great to see a lot of people that are so detail oriented in this niche. So I took a lot away from it. And again, this being my first, I definitely felt like there was so much growth within the 2 and 3 days.
Absolutely. I felt it. I saw it, not only with you, but with, other people on our team. Samantha had never really been in the sales role. She's in charge of operations, and she was just over there killing it with the sales. And, it was really cool. Sales is a really valuable skill set. So just like watching the team grow was fantastic. It was so cool. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of special edition of the $1 Million Agency Podcast. Tune in next week for another episode. We'll see you then. Thanks a lot.